Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. This is session number 192 and session number 1 officially on The Ring Goes South as we begin this strange stretch which is life after the Council of Elrond, which some of us was not 100% sure would actually happen, but here we are. Going on to The Ring Goes South. So there were several things that I was reflecting on. So this past weekend was Mythmoot, and it was awesome. So glad to see so many of you there. I got to talk with many of you and to connect with many of you. It was wonderful. And of course we had several conversations about exploring the Lord of the Rings, and there were a few things that I was reflecting on and had several conversations about. One was some additional data that was laid upon me by Evil Dr. Cannon, who is there at Mythmoot in person, and we had a long talk about this, and he was pointing out, he made a couple more graphs in which he was calculating if you go back and you calculate on the average number of pages per session, if you average our time from the last 3 chapters, that is, so if you take the average of our pages per session from the last 3 chapters and project forward, it's about it's going to take about 20 years or so to finish the rest of the Lord of the Rings. But if you adopt the last chapter, if you adopt the Council of Elrond as our model for going forward, and assume that we're going to proceed through the Lord of the Rings at about the same pace that we did the Council of Elrond at, then it projects actually to 30 years to get through to the end. And I thought this was a very encouraging thing, frankly, because I figure, okay, 30 years, and then adding a few extra years in for, so there it is, Evil Dr. Cannon's graph right there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, here I am. Let me see if I can explain. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put it on. But anyway, it's here on Discord. It'll take me a minute to get it. Maybe I can download it. I'm not sure. Anyway. Yeah, let's see. I'll open the link. There we go. Okay, I can get it. All right, here it is. Hang on a second. All right, there it is. And then I can even make it bigger, big enough to look at. There we go. Okay. Forecasted time remaining based on our progress. And the blue line is the line for based on the pace of the Council of Elrond. So as you can see, right around a little over 29 years, which I figure I round up another 3.5 years if you put together all of the weeks that I'm going to have to skip because of travel and other family conflicts and things like that. Put those together over the course of the next 30 years, and that'll probably be an extra 3 years or so. But I think this is great. This is very encouraging. I find this very encouraging because this means that probably I will be finished with this by the time I'm 80. So that's perfect, right? What could be better? So I think this is excellent. Now, this does not include the returning to the beginning, so we can read, concerning hobbits and the other introductory material. Doesn't include the appendices. Doesn't include going back and doing chapter 1 again, which we skipped so much of, and all that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Arinda says she's looking forward to the time when we start late because I'm putting the grandkids to bed. Yes, indeed. Well, given that. Yes, I'm sure that is going to be happening. But anyway, so that's what we have in front of us here, and there are several things. That we, really can and should be thinking about moving forward. One of the things that this also sort of led to is thinking a good deal more about what we've talked about in the past. We've talked about having some kind of publication, right? Some kind of thing, right? Where we produce material from this. And there's several issues here. So, of course, many people have suggested that I should write, an Exploring the Lord of the Rings book or set of books like my Exploring the Hobbit book. And that was a lot of fun, and goodness knows I'd be very interested in doing that at some point. But first of all, there's no way that I'm going to have time to do that anytime very soon, so it's not a hugely practical suggestion. But more importantly, it wouldn't do the trick. Right, or rather, I mean, like, I could do that, but that would not satisfy me. What I want is something that is going to be more interactive, more with more opportunity to grow organically over time. Yeah, Tormarthan says the binding of the book might be wider than its cover. It's possible. Kurtzimus, yeah, something more like a wiki with recordings. It would need to have multimedia options in there. But it's more than just... Because what I would love to see... So we had several conversations about this over the course of the weekend. And I have a slightly clearer idea of what I would like to see. I would like to see something like a web page that could host our our summaries, like starting with the summaries that Tony's already done, the kind of overview of our discussions, which are so wonderful and so useful, and to have those heavily hyperlinked to particular topics of discussion, particular items of debate, particular themes that we might want to track through multiple sessions and come back to. Anyway, so, and then each one of those, of course, could have a page which could contain, obviously more than just stuff that we talked about in class. I would love to have those themselves then be like discussion forums where discussion could continue, and even potentially to be able to facilitate sort of further live discussions that could be recorded. In other words, I have no, it's not about the thing that I would like to produce, the sort of web page or, electronic, massively hyperlinked and multimedia text that I would like to create that I would like to see created from this. It's not about, goodness knows, this class has never been about just like, me giving you my insights. As you know, I've set out on purpose to have these discussions be spontaneous. I'm discovering along with you guys. This isn't just about me preparing my wisdom to download to you. Of course, teaching's never really like that anyway. And here, that's not even my ambition. So, sometimes I think I've stumbled across some pretty interesting things. Many times, you guys have suggested things I've never thought of before, or things have emerged as we've been talking together that I suspect, none of us planned or foresaw. And so, of course, it's fun to kind of catalog those and to sort of write those down and note those down. But there are going to be a lot of things. I know I've already read The Lord of the Rings again several times since we started, and when I'm reading the parts that we've already discussed, there are several times when a new thing that I never thought of before occurs to me, and that's going to happen. That's always going to happen. So again, I don't want it just to be sort of a static record of what we talked about in the sessions, though, of course, that's a good place to start, right? As anything. Anyway, it's going to be, it needs to be. So if this thing, right, this big electronic text thing that I'm talking about is to be, some kind of legacy, right? Some kind of uh, you know, something useful for the future. The idea is not that like what we've come up with or what we've said along the way here, you know, is definitive and must be permanently recorded, but rather to provide opportunities for further discovery and further discussion as things move forward. So, anyway, that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking of, and we're almost ready. I wonder if we would be. I wonder if we would be, you know, we've been talking about this since we finished book 1, right? I remember sitting down with you guys and having a long discussion about that, these 2 years ago. Yeah, Kurtzimus says this would be almost be more like a concordance than a book. Kurtzimus, it would contain many of the elements of a concordance, in fact. As I would love to take... Now, of course, one of the tricky parts, Kurtzimus, is that we can't actually include the text of the Lord of the Rings in it, right? Which is a shame. I mean, what I would really love to do is to have the full text of the Lord of the Rings and have it hyperlinked, right, with our different discussions and thoughts and suggestions. That would really, in my opinion, be optimal. We can't do that legally, just due to copyright restrictions. So we can't do that. But we can at least, you know, start that's why I'm kind of imagining as sort of the base text being the summaries, like the episode summaries, as a way to kind of march through, so that people can march through the text, you know, could kind of march through summaries of our discussions, see the flow of everything that we've talked about, but also have the opportunity to kind of drill down deeper into particular discussions, or to move outwards. And so drilling down, by the way, could also get you to video and audio snippets of like the relevant section of class, so you wouldn't just have to go through the whole long class recording. And it also could link you to other places where that same theme has come up before. So, you know, when we're looking at a particular word usage, or, you know, thinking about the subjunctive mood or something like that, to be able to have links that would be able to take you to all of the different episodes, you know, in sequence in which we talked about all those things. So anyway, that's just what we're that's what I would really love to see. It would be, because see, this is one of the other things, and this came up in my discussions with Evil Dr. Cannon when he was having a serious talk with me about our projections for the times, and that is that it's going to become harder and harder. People are going to carry on discovering this, right? But could you imagine the situation of somebody who discovers this, 10 years from now? After 15 years worth of recordings? I mean, the time will come when it's going to be about 2,000 hours of listening to catch up to the live class, right? 2,000 hours. I mean, put that in context. 2,000 hours, that's a full-time job for a year, right? 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year. And, so it's not really going to be reasonable, right, to expect people to catch up. Obviously, people. So having a mechanism whereby they can, look at summaries, and so if they really want to follow the flow of our discussions to this point and then jump in, that there will be some options for that, rather than listening necessarily to all 2,000 hours in order before we get to the end of that. Anyway, that's. So yeah, I mean, so Freebeard, I think it's a Freebeard. That's a perfectly good question. Like, do we have any reason to think that people, not here are going to be interested? It's been my experience ever since I started my podcast that there are lots of people who are interested in this kind of thing and who would be interested in the kind, and not to mention those who come after. many of you who've been around my podcast for a long time may have fond memories of the Silmarillion seminar that we held back in 2010. I still get emails. From people who have just discovered the Silmarillion seminar and are thanking me for doing it. And it was like more than 10 years ago. It was 11 years ago at this time. So, yeah, I mean, it could be, when after all of us here are gone, right, people will still be discovering this. So exactly, praise. This is for posterity. Precisely. So anyway, that's, as I say, that's always been my experience since I started the podcast. I began this podcast with this sort of underestimation of how many people there were out there who might be interested in this sort of thing. And I've learned over the last 11 years not to underestimate that kind of thing. Drowsnake points out that 2050 is around the time The Lord of the Rings is expected to enter the public domain, but Drowsnake, I'm not holding my breath about that, because Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, both are scheduled to hit the public domain after Mickey Mouse does, and so therefore I don't expect them ever to do so. But that's a different thing. Exactly, Drowsnake points out that the mouse always has its way. That's precisely it. But anyway, so I am I'm not quite sure exactly how to proceed, but if people are interested to proceed, I think we could begin sort of forming a kind of editorial team to kind of talk about the mechanics of moving forward with this project. I don't have much time that is litotes, as we say in my industry. I have almost no time to dedicate to this project myself right now, but I would love to see it happen, and I would be happy to facilitate its occurring and kind of support it in various other ways that we can. Anyway, yeah. Yes, Captain Mo, I agree. That line about, when those who are now in the wombs of women grow old, right? Yeah, that Aragorn says in the, Now, that is a line relevant to be thought of in regards to the future of exploring the Lord of the Rings. We will see. And yeah, Trifle, I agree. There will be a significant degree of computer encoding work involved. So yeah, we're going to need people to help with, Tony's been doing summaries. We may need people to help with other summaries or some other kind of editorial segments there. We'll need people to help with video and audio editing to be able to present relevant clips so that people don't have to shift through, like the whole, scrub somewhere up to, like an hour and a half in to find the particular relevant section. We're going to have to, we're going to need to be doing some coding to figure out how to lay this up. We're going to need some, web design to kind of put it together. So there's definitely going to be a variety of skills that would be needed for this, and to think about how everything could be kind of could be integrated together. But anyway, that's exactly. Musical, we're going to need to remove the announcements. Again, just could separate out individual segments. There's all kinds of things here. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's see what to do next. Why don't you, if you are interested in this project, you can go ahead and send an email. I think by email is probably the easiest thing to do. You can send an email. You can send an email to, let's see, where can you send an email? Why don't you send an email just to the basic Signum line, to info@signumuniversity.org or signumu.org. info@signumu.org. So yeah, that'd be easiest, and then we can kind of sort out exactly where things are going to happen next and everything. That would be really cool. So any one of those kinds of tasks that I talked about, if you'd be interested in being involved, and again, if not, no problem, right? There's just no pressure, just for people. I know lots of people have expressed a desire to see this happen and to take part in that. So yeah, send us an email and we'll put together a team and see what we can do. One last note that I would make before we I'll do that next time. Okay, all right, but let's get into, because we're not going to get anywhere in chapter 2 here if we don't hustle. That's what we're all about, right? Okay, so we had started with the Council of Bilbo. Later that day, the hobbits held a meeting of their own in Bilbo's room. Merry and Pippin were indignant when they heard that Sam had crept into the council and had been chosen as Frodo's companion. "It's most unfair," said Pippin. "Instead of throwing him out and clapping him in chains, Elrond goes and rewards him for his cheek." "Rewards?" said Frodo. "I can't imagine a more severe punishment. You were not thinking what you were saying. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward? Yesterday I dreamed that my task was done, and I could rest here a long while, perhaps for good." "I don't wonder," said Merry, "and I wish you could. But we were envying Sam, not you. If you have to go, then it will be a punishment for any of us to be left behind, even in Rivendell. We have come a long way with you and been through some stiff times. We want to go on." "That's what I meant," said Pippin. "We hobbits ought to stick together, and we will. I shall go unless they chain me up. There must be someone with intelligence in the party." "Then you certainly will not be chosen, Peregrine Took," said Gandalf, looking in through the window, which was near the ground. "But you are all worrying yourselves unnecessarily. Nothing is decided yet." Yeah, Captain Mo, I love the fact that it's Gandalf who's eavesdropping outside the window, right? But you'll notice nobody attempts to infenestrate Gandalf, right? Though it would have been, one might think, a fair turnabout for Sam to reach out and pull the wizard in through the window. He doesn't even try it for some reason, not quite sure why. Perhaps they could have all done it together as a team effort, Kurzimus. It's possible. Now, my favorite line, by the way, in this passage, the one sentence that I go through and repeat to myself, and I just love the whole sound and the sense of it. "We are envying Sam, not you." Right? Frodo, as Matt was just pointing out, Frodo is so beside himself he can't engage in hobbitry, right? They're joking, right? They're all reacting like hobbits, right? They're all engaging in hobbitry. They're teasing each other, right? Starts with Pippin choosing Sam, right? Throwing him out and clapping him in chains. Elrond goes and rewards him for his cheek. And then, again, Pippin, of course, can't be stopped, right? With his hobbitry, even down to his remark about intelligence. But Frodo, in the middle of it, he's the one who's completely out of tune with everybody else here, right? Rewards? I can't imagine a more severe punishment. You were not thinking what you were saying. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward? Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward. Frodo is rather pessimistic here, right? Frodo has just made the step. And remember the emphasis that was laid upon this, both explicitly in his words and implicitly in how he approached the whole thing before and after Frodo's volunteering. How much emphasis Elrond laid upon Frodo's choice, right? Upon Frodo's volunteering and his act of free will. And sort of despite that, or after that, he's still describing it, right? Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward. Now, he's not describing himself there as condemned, right? He's not been condemned to go on this hopeless journey. Sam was condemned to go on this hopeless journey. As we talked about, Elrond was, as we talked about last time when we were looking at Sam's volunteering, Elrond is explicit about preserving Frodo's free will. He's more implicit in preserving Sam's free will. And this seems to me wholly appropriate and only demonstrates that, Elrond is picking up what Sam's putting down, right? Sam was obviously, though he didn't bother to actually say it in so many words, was obviously himself volunteering, or even perhaps more strongly, the word volunteering might be too gentle a word for what Sam was doing, especially given the sort of impetus that brought him to leap up and speak up and out of turn in front of everybody there at the council, right? This is much more urgent than just a volunteering on Sam's part. And again, it seems to me that Elrond read that perfectly well. But Frodo characterizes it, that is what Elrond says to Sam, as a condemnation, right? A condemnation to go on this hopeless journey. And that's interesting, right? I can't imagine a more severe punishment. And again, like on the surface, of course, one can easily see what he means, right? What more horrible way to condemn Sam, right, for sneaking into the council uninvited, than to send him off on this, on this hopeless journey to his death, right? Which, by calling it hopeless, that's what Frodo is suggesting, right? And he goes on, I dreamed yesterday, I dreamed that my task was done, and I could rest here a long while, perhaps for good. Now, this is interesting, because I'm not sure I get where Frodo is right now, as far as like his headspace, if you see what I mean. I don't think that oh, excellent. I see Druid's Fire has created a new Discord channel here, ELOTR multimedia project, for people who want to discuss that separately. Fantastic. That's great. Thank you, Druid's Fire. That's very helpful. Okay, so as I say, I don't think I understand exactly where Frodo is here. Maybe you guys can help me understand this, because I don't understand it. For one thing, yesterday I dreamed that my task was done and I could rest here a long while, perhaps for good. Maybe? I mean, I don't disbelieve him. It's not like I think he's lying right here, right? And yet, he's known for some time, right? I go to lose a treasure, right? He's going there, and he's not going to come back again, so far as he can tell. Now we can say, okay, so I mean, he's sensed that since Bag End, right? This is not, it's not a new idea. I would argue that I think he's had a pretty clear idea, as did Gandalf, that Gandalf already raised the possibility of him having to be the one to take the ring to Mordor back in Bag End. Remember, that came up, and Gandalf raised that, though he did throw him, the lifeline, right? That task may be reserved for others, right? It's at least a possibility, right? So, yeah, anyway, I don't think that he really believed. So, I've been getting in a bad habit lately of pointing to the film as an example of what I think is untrue about the book. But it so often illustrates it really nicely, so I may keep doing it. But I just mentioned that so as to say I don't want to create the impression that I think the film adaptations are just horrible and do everything wrong. But what I'm thinking of is, that moment. It's Sam, it's not Frodo in the film, right? When Sam comes to Frodo and he says he's got their bags packed and he's assuming they're going home, right? The kind of assumption that Sam expresses, the kind of confidence that movie Sam expresses about, like, going home, or that, like, their task is done. I don't think anybody feels that way in the book. I don't think any of the hobbits feel that way in the books. I certainly don't think Frodo felt that way. So I certainly don't think that we can interpret this as saying, he was like, what happened, that kind of movement within his heart that led him to volunteer at the council came upon him unexpectedly and suddenly, and he'd never, and it in retrospect blows him away. I don't think that is, what happened at all. Now, I do acknowledge, that he uses the word dreamed, right, which is different, right? He says, as somebody was just pointing out, JJ was saying this, as was, I think, somebody else just a little bit earlier on, that he didn't necessarily say he believed it, right? Just that he dreamed that his task was done. And he imagines resting here for a long while, perhaps for good. In fact, he seems here to be articulating what that thing that he had the really strong longing for, right? Right before he volunteers, that desire to stay here at peace with Bilbo. So he dreamed that briefly, I guess. But here's one other interesting thing. Notice that he's not dreaming about going home, right? There are sort of three options, right? Notice that there were kind of, in Bag End, when he was talking to Gandalf about this, there were two options, right? One was the there and back journey like Bilbo's, where you go, you do the job, and you come back home, right? Not exactly the same, but you come back home. And that's one possibility, right? That's one version. But he never believed in that, right? He thought that this was definitely no treasure hunt, right? No there and back journey. The other option was to go the much more depressing option that he thought was more likely to be his fate, right? That he was going on a one-way trip, right? That he was just going, going to be flying from deadly peril into deadly peril, drawing it after him, right? That he was going to spend the rest of his life wandering through the wild, on the run, hiding from the spies and servants of Sauron, right? That was the other option, right? To go there, meaning away from the Shire and never return again, right? This dream here that he refers to seems to suggest almost a kind of third possibility, right? Namely, that he could go there and not go back again, but it doesn't have to be on the run, right? He could stay here. He'd be safe here, right? He wouldn't have to worry about the spies and servants of Sauron finding him if he were here. He could remain here, so long as the ring didn't, right? If his task were done and he could give up the ring and not worry about it anymore and just, retire to Rivendell, like Bilbo has retired to Rivendell. But it's interesting to me that the going home, again, it's one of the several reasons why that scene always kind of makes me twitch. The movie scene always kind of makes me twitch a little bit, because it's very different from the books. It's very untrue to the situation here, to the real kind of emotional and, I don't know, even spiritual, in a sense, situation. Their sense of their own callings and duties is what I mean by that, by spiritual. Sam is definitely not packing up and going to be pressing Frodo to go back home, right? He is instead focused entirely on following Frodo wherever he may go. And he clearly had the sense that Frodo was going to be going on, right? That Frodo was going to be moving forward. But even Frodo himself does not seem to imagine going home. Now Bilbo is here, right? And Tim, you're right. Frodo doesn't have a home to go to. Not really his home, right? He sold Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses, and Bilbo is here, right? So in some ways this is an upgrade, right, from his his new house in Crick Hollow, right? Better to stay. I mean, it's nice, and they fixed it up as nice as they could and everything, but it's not going to be the same as the old house at Bag End, and whatever. But it's but again, I think more importantly, that home. Think about one of the reasons that this strikes me as particularly important. Remember the Hobbit, right? Remember the pattern that we're following. Frodo differentiates his quest, his undertaking, from Bilbo's at the beginning, right? My journey is not like Bilbo's journey. I'm not going there and back again. And we see that continuously borne out. Remember, of course, in The Hobbit, when Bilbo is on his journey, what's he doing all the time? Right? What does the narrator keep reminding us that Bilbo is doing? Right? What he's always doing is fantasizing about home. Imagining his, wishing to be next to his hearth with the kettle just beginning to sing, right? Not for the last time, as the Hobbit narrator is always reminding us at that point. Exactly. Thinking about bacon and eggs, Matthew. That's exactly it. Frodo doesn't do that, right? Frodo is not on that kind of the back again was always the point, right? I mean, Bilbo's destination was never the Lonely Mountain, right? The Lonely Mountain was only a waypoint on the there and back again journey, right? It was the point at which the journey was going to turn around, and it was the midpoint of the journey, not the end of the journey. Home was always the end of the journey. It's always the sort of measure, right, by which the whole process was sort of measured, how close he was to success. With Frodo, it isn't that, right? He hasn't at any point been thinking, he's only been thinking about how to escape, how to leave, how to cover his trail, even to the point. I don't want to leave too quickly the point that you guys were making. Tim, you make a really important point. He sold his home before he left, right? I mean, Bilbo doesn't exactly make good arrangements, right? Everybody thinks he's dead, and he returns home to find his house being sold off. But Frodo sells his home before he leaves, right? And actively conceals, Bilbo didn't conceal his departure on purpose, right? But Frodo does conceal his departure on purpose. Anyway, so yeah, Tomas is wondering, is it like the burning of the ships? Well, less obnoxious, right? He doesn't set fire to it, and what's more, it's actually his, right, as opposed to something he stole. So it has certain differences with the burning of the ships, but it is, Tomas, almost as permanent. I mean, it's not as horrible. I mean, I still think the burning of the ships is one of the most horrible things that Feanor did, quite possibly in its way the worst. I think that was the thing from which there was no turning back for Feanor. I know the kinslaying is killing fellow elves is worse than setting fire to the ships. I'm not trying to argue that exactly, but I think he's further around the bend. Like I feel like that's his point of no return. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, it's not that kind of a moral step, very serious, bad moral step that Frodo's making. And yet it's almost as irrevocable, right? I mean, remember when remember when his friends are talking, the conspiracy and his, how the lengths he's going to conceal the fact that he was going, and yet how obvious it was that he was planning a major step, right? And they mention like actually selling his beloved Bag End. Like if he's going to go to extremes like that, there's obviously, something's obviously up, so anyway, yeah. Yeah, right. Okay, Tomas, right. Thinking not of Feanor, but of Cortez. Yeah, in a more Cortesian sense, right? In the sense of you can't go home. But still, I don't think that parallel works exactly either. Yeah, talk about burning ships, I'm always going to be thinking of Feanor first. But anyway, the larger point here is simply that Frodo, I'm not saying he doesn't want to go home, but it's certainly not his. It was always Bilbo's destination. It has never been his destination here, and we can see that, right? His dream, right? In as much as he has a dream, a fantasy about what he could do and how things could turn out, his dream is to retire in Rivendell, right? To be enabled to stay here, not to go home. He's still going there and not back again, except that there is nicer, right? Rivendell instead of Mordor, and the not coming back again means quiet retirement instead of horribly painful death. So there's a lot of ways in which this would certainly be a fantasy outcome instead of the horror outcome. But nevertheless, both are still in the same pattern, if you see what I mean. Both are still there and not going back again. Home is right out of the picture. And I'd be interested. Off the top of my head, I can't remember any time that Frodo is going to long for home in the way that Bilbo did, right? At any point in the entire rest of the books. I just don't think that, I don't remember that, sorry, I don't remember that ever happening in the entire rest of the book. It'll be interesting to watch. Sam's going to remember home, right? And he's going to talk about going home. But Frodo, I don't think, is going to do that. Not as far as I remember. Yeah, exactly. Going through. That's the first thing that I was thinking of. That Sam asks him if he can remember the Shire, but he can't. Right? Yeah, exactly. He fails there. Yeah. Anyway, let's. So we'll see what we see as we move forward there. But I do think it's interesting that that's what his dream is. Resting here a long while, perhaps for good. Here's one of the reasons that I think that. Here's another reason I think that's interesting. Is there a sense in which this dream kind of gives itself away? That is to say, I suspect perhaps this dream that he dreamed, it's not a bad dream. It's not a wicked dream, right? It's not like a dream he's got to repent of or something. But ultimately, it's like an irresponsible dream. It's an avoidance dream. It's a neither one thing nor the other dream, right? I neither go on the quest and fulfill this task, nor go home, right? I just remain here in a kind of limbo. It's almost an escapist dream, in a sense, right? To be outside of all that. Now, like Bilbo remaining here, it's different for him, right? When you're 130, retirement to Rivendell means something quite different. Exactly. Going through, at the very least, it's punting the problem to somebody else. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and now we know he didn't do it, right? He didn't cling to that. If it was a temptation, he resisted the temptation. When the time came for somebody to volunteer to take the ring, he volunteered, right? He stepped forward. He did, in fact, stand forth like he was supposed to do. Yeah. Now, Flammifer, I hear you about the significance of Frodo's earlier dreams, but I don't think this is that kind of a dream. I don't think he had a dream. First of all, every other dream he's had that's been significant has been narrated as part of the narration. Like, we're told about the dream, like in the moment while he's still asleep in the narrative, right? I see no reason to think this is that kind of dream. I think that he's talking about essentially daydreaming. I think he's essentially daydreaming about that his task was done and he could rest here a long while. Because again, I see no reason to believe it was a dream anything like his other dreams that we've seen described. I think he's just saying, like, he had this wish, right? He allowed himself to imagine yesterday when he woke up and he went to the feast and he woke up and he went to the feast and he saw Bilbo in the Hall of Fire, and then they went back to his room and talked for a while, under the stars. That he indulged during that time. He indulged this desire, right? This wish that maybe it could always be like this, right? Maybe he could just live here and do this like that all the time. Yeah. I think that that's all he means when he says, I dreamed that my task was done. I don't know that I could prove it. Like, to prove that he didn't have a dream, the only thing I can say is that it breaks with the pattern. Every other dream that he's had that's been significant has been narrated to us, and so therefore I don't see why wouldn't be in that sense. So yeah, it's in that sense, it's not that this is a false dream and the others were true dreams, Flammifer, is that this one isn't a dream. It's just a wish, a waking wish or desire, the longing. Right, just like that longing that rose up within his heart in the council itself. Right, not a dream. So again, it's just a different kind of thing. And Rowan, you're right, and I saw a couple other people talking about this too. That it was pretty quick after his recovery as well. That he's only been conscious since his ordeal for like a day or less than a day. So yeah, that's also, I think, kind of puts into context what he says about his dream here, right? He didn't have long to indulge it. And I don't think this desire of his took very firm root or was really held in his heart as a very viable option. I think it's been pretty clear. I think even back when Gandalf was saying to him in Bag End that he was meant to find the ring and that might be a comforting thought, and Frodo said it is not. Right? I think that one of the reasons he thought that his being meant to have the ring was not a comforting thought, was that he could tell then, right? He could sense from there that that he was going to have this job to do. Right, that he had to, that this was not going to work out like a quiet retirement for him. Yeah. Okay. So again, back to my question: where is Frodo right now in his headspace? Is there anything? Let me ask this question another way. If you were a director, what would you say to the Frodo actor who was delivering this line? Like, what instructions would you give to the Frodo actor who was delivering these lines? You see what I mean? I mean, you could imagine doing it a couple different ways. Is he half joking, right? Is he bitter? He could say it bitter. You know, that would fit the words. Depressed? Angry? Or, I don't know. Resigned, O'Malley? Yeah, possibly. Drausnick, I agree with you that he starts semi-joking. Rewards, I can't imagine a more severe punishment, is almost in line with the bantering hobbitry tone that Pippin was clearly using, right? And that Frodo is responding to. But that next sentence, you were not thinking what you were saying. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey, a reward? Condemned to go on this hopeless journey. Yeah, Flammer, I agree. That does not sound like hobbitry to me. If there was a little bit of echoing back to Pippin, what Pippin was giving, it's gone by that second sentence, right? Yeah, Fort Dauntless says that initial hobbitry sounds a bit desperate. He's covering, not honestly joking. Yeah, I think he's trying, right? He's trying to respond to Pippin in kind, but he can't. That makes sense. Condemned, I agree, Nancy. Condemned is a hard word. Condemned is a hard word. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey. Well, thank you, bold ring bearer. Right? That is to say, he's not sounding like the protagonist here. Right? He's not sounding like the guy from the Hall of Fame of Elf Friends speaking here. Right? Yeah. Cecilia thinks wistful. That last sentence is wistful. Definitely. Exasperated. Emma Thorne, yeah. Exasperated at their not understanding the gravity of the situation. Now, like, hobbits understand why other hobbits speak lightly at times, right? What Merry is going to have to explain explicitly in the Houses of Healing to Aragorn, whom he still thinks does not understand it, right? And I love it. By the way, little forecast. I'll do this early because it's going to be a while. By the time we get to it, we'll all have forgotten it again anyway. I believe that the speech that prompts Merry to be apologetic to Aragorn in the Houses of the Healing about how he's like not slept in a day and a half and everything else. I think that Aragorn is totally attempting hobbitry again, but Aragorn is he's so bad at it. Like, Aragorn is so bad at hobbitry. He almost never succeeds in maintaining the tone and carrying off the tone that you're supposed to have. Gandalf is a natural. Even Elrond is reasonably good at it, though it's a little stiff. But Aragorn, he's hopeless. He is hopeless when it comes to hobbitry, such that Merry thinks he's not even joking. Right? Merry misses the point entirely, and he's got to explain it. Right? Anyway, so Frodo obviously gets it. He understands, and he understands what's behind it and everything. But the "you are not thinking what you are saying" comes close to objecting to the hobbitry tone entirely. Like, don't make jokes about it, right? You were not thinking what you were saying. Condemned to go on this hopeless journey or reward. That's not even a joke, right? Merry and Pippin both, though, refuse to be cut back by this, right? They're not. Neither one of them are going to leave off with hobbitry, though. Merry has a good kind of compromising tone to Frodo. which is what we're going to look at next. But I agree, Evil Dr. Cannon, that it shows where Matt is, that he's not where Matt. No, you are Matt. It shows where Frodo is, that he's not in the mood for it. Absolutely, I think it does tell us something about that. Exactly, likely about Frodo has to be thinking that Sam is likely to die, which is not a joking matter. No, but of course, like, not joking matters are exactly what hobbits do joke about, right? And again, Frodo understands that, as well as any other hobbit. But he's not that, he can't do it, right? He can't do it. So he is in a sufficiently serious frame of mind. Do I think he's depressed? I don't think he's depressed. He sounds a little too active for that. He does get wistful at the end, I agree. I think that he's... Freebird, you're right. He's trying to dissuade them from following. That's true. That's true. He wants to seriously... And Freebird, of course, you mentioned this. We've seen this kind of thing before. Right, at the Conspiracy Unmasked, when they're all joking and he feels like, hang on, no, guys, seriously, let's talk about this, right? You don't understand what you're saying. He takes exactly that kind of tone with them when he said, when in his, like, I can't allow it kinds of speeches then. And again, he thinks that, or he seems to be concerned that they just don't get it. They don't comprehend how serious a business this is. Blue Wizard, I agree. He's trying to convey, as he was before, that this is his burden, but it doesn't have to be theirs. He doesn't joke about it, though. Bilbo was joking about it. Right? Bilbo made a serious offer to take the ring on himself and joked about it the whole time, right? Joked about it so successfully that it almost made Boromir laugh, right? Or would have done had everybody else in the room, not been laughing also. But you're right, Evil Dr. Cannon. Bilbo's joke only involved himself, and here Frodo is thinking about Sam's already been condemned to go on this hopeless journey, right? And so it's if this is jest, it's too bitter for laughter, especially in exactly the terms that Pippin was joking about, right? Imagining that Elrond should have punished him, and instead of punishing him, he rewarded him. And Frodo's like, what are you talking about? He condemned him to death. What more do you want? Right? And so the disjunction there is it seems to reflect his... I agree that Bilbo was only joking about himself. I like Merry's response, right? On the one hand, he doesn't back down. I don't wonder, and I wish you could. But we are envying Sam, not you. If you have to go, then it will be a punishment for any of us to be left behind, even in Rivendell. We've come a long way with you and been through some stiff times. We want to go on. Now, he doesn't joke here exactly. But again, that reversal, that we are envying Sam, not you, is still a funny way of saying it, right? He is still being light in his expressions, but he's being gentle, right? I don't wonder, and I wish you could, right? I don't wonder that you dreamed that your task was done and you could rest here a long while. And I wish you could, right? But we're envying Sam, not you. We're not saying we wish that we also could be on this quest. And notice also the distinction that he's making. He's correcting, implicitly correcting something that Frodo said, which I think is very important. And what he's correcting is the word condemned. Elrond didn't condemn Sam to go on this trip. He rewarded him. And Merry's going to stand up for that. He's going to defend the joke, right? Elrond did reward Sam. reward him by granting him what he wanted, allowing him to go along with Frodo. Is where Frodo's going is really horrible. That's absolutely true. But Sam was given what he wanted, which was the privilege of going along with Frodo. And if you have to go, then it will be a punishment for any of us to be left behind, even in Rivendell. So he's calling Frodo on that. Sam wasn't condemned, right? Sam chose. Sam wanted to go, and he was given his wish, right? So you can go on and say, Frodo, that Sam shouldn't wish for that, right? That he shouldn't want to go on this journey with you, right? But the fact is he does, and so do Merry and Pippin, and they would consider it a punishment for them to be left behind if he has to go. Even if they have to be left behind in Rivendell. Notice how he ties it back into his dream, his wish, his daydream, right? They could live it. They could retire here, or maybe they'd be allowed to stay. Doesn't look like Elrond's going to be booting them out anytime soon, right? So, but anyway, like, even if we got to stay here in Rivendell, right, it would be not the fulfillment of our wishes. It would be like a punishment. Yeah. Like Leobot says, hang on, let me go back to that. Yeah, it's one of those moments when I remember that Merry is a princeling. Yeah, he is. He is. Yeah, Drowsnake said he just realized that over 50% of the Fellowship are essentially royalty. Kind of. Yeah. Of different kinds, right? But yeah, it's a fairly august group, right? As remember, Gandalf is going to be kind of making a joke about that, right? When Wormtongue makes his crack about the ragged wanderers in grey, right? And Gandalf is going to point out what an august guest list, in fact, he has right here. But anyway, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting parallel, Green Great Dragon. Being like if Hurin and Huor had been detained in Gondolin and not allowed to leave as they were. That's what it would be like for Merry and Pippin to stay in Rivendell. Yeah, that's an interesting parallel. So as I say, I love the gentleness but firmness with which Merry corrects him here, right? And it all pivots on that sentence I find so delightful, but we are envying Sam, not you, right? We're not envying. We don't want to be you. We're not wishing that this task had been laid on us. If there's anyone who's been condemned, it's Frodo, right? But he took it on himself, right? This is why that free will moment was so important. And now Merry is basically pointing out, because again, the condemnation crack, right, that Frodo made before in his bitterness, concern, his upset that, Sam is coming along, right, on this hopeless journey. Merry's not going to let him get away with it, right? Sam chose. They choose. And he, Frodo, is not going to get to overrule their choice. Frodo chose to take up the quest. They choose to come along. They want to go on. And of course, it's adorable. We have come a long way with you and been through some stiff times. It's adorable from the context of knowing what happens later, right? Knowing what a small percentage of their journeys and their difficulties the hobbits are in fact through at this point. It's adorable to hear Merry talk about how long they've come and how stiff have been the times through which they have come. It's not that it's untrue. Their journey is a very significant one by their measure, by any hobbit measure. And the times they have come through it's not that they've not experienced anything, right? The Barrow the Barrow, the Old Forest, the Barrow Downs, the incidents in Bree, the attack on Weathertop, the flight to the ford. These are pretty significant moments, and yet there's so much yet to come, right? And as Gandalf is going to say later on in this chapter, Gandalf and Elrond will both agree that neither Merry nor Pippin really understands what is to come, and we can see that really clear here. Yeah, it's true. No, I'm not down. Several people pointing out that there was some very serious peril that they have faced. They did almost get eaten by a tree, and they were their time in the Barrow that was legitimately deadly. I totally agree. Oh no, all that stuff is true, but I'm just saying it's a clear indication that I have no doubt that Merry, when he returns to Rivendell and looks back at this moment, would not think that when he was last in Rivendell, I don't think that he would in retrospect call the trip from the Shire to Rivendell that he's here commenting. I don't think that he would now say, we came a long way, right? It's gonna look different to him later on, is all I'm saying. Yeah. No, again, it's not that it's not true. It's not that it's not true. Those were all definitely stiff times, but so much more to come. And then he ends with that really simple statement: "We want to go on." Right? And again, notice he ends by reasserting his choice. Frodo, I understand. I understand how you feel. I understand how you feel about yourself, your wish to stay here, and your sort of regret that you're not going to be able to do that. Your sense of hopelessness about the journey that's in front of you. Your concern about Sam and us as your other friends. But you cannot abrogate our choice. We want to go on. And Pippin, without the sort of gentle compromise of tone, right? That's what I meant. We hobbits ought to stick together, and we will. I shall go, unless they chain me up. Notice he goes well beyond we want to go on. I shall go, right? And notice how he's back to being clapped in chains by Elrond, right? He goes back to his original joke. He's absolutely doubling down on this, right? When Pippin had joked that Sam ought to have been clapped in chains and instead was sent on, was rewarded, right, and sent on the journey, Pippin is now he's going back to that same joke, right? Yep. So there are two choices: either being clapped in chains or going along with the party, right? Those are the only, being sent along on the journey just like Sam was. Those are the only two, those were the two options for Sam, and those are the only two options for me too. Yeah, absolutely. And I love how I don't know what he's going to contrive to do, right? To get chained up as a punishment or whatever, but he's determined. His choice, he states his choice even more resolutely and more whimsically. Right? I shall go unless they chain me up. Just using the future tense. And then there must be someone with intelligence in the party. So how do you end? Right? How do you end this kind of statement? What is his contribution to cheering up Frodo? Right? To countering Frodo's anxiety-ridden, possibly bitterness-tinged statements from before. He ends it with a joke, with an insult, right? Classic hobbitry, right? By insulting Frodo's intelligence is how he brings it back around, right? There must be someone with intelligence in the party. So he's insulting all three of the rest of them, right? But unfortunately, there is someone else at hand who knows just the right answer. Then you certainly will not be chosen, Peregrine Took, said Gandalf, looking in through the window, which was near the ground. So Gandalf isn't going to let him get away with that, right? There must be someone with intelligence in the party. Remember this. Remember the occasion of this when we come back to this later on. Soon, probably. Then you certainly will not be chosen, Peregrine Took. The scolding tone, right? But again, Gandalf really good at hobbitry. The joking scolding of him, right? Hamathor and I agree. Gandalf is kind of the king of comebacks, absolutely. Kurtzimus wondering how near the ground this window is. You know, is Gandalf like lying down or like on his hands and knees? Probably not that close to the ground. I suspect this just means it's a first story window, just like they have for hobbits in Bree. Remember, they have ground floor windows for them. Because Barrowman knows they don't like to go upstairs, or as we learned in the Mythgard Academy, maybe he does it to prevent them throwing his crockery out the upper story windows, like hobbits want to throw their dirty dishes out the window. Crucial things you learn in the Mythgard Academy. But yes, I believe it's only a ground floor window. I don't think that Gandalf is crawling along on his hands and knees, coming up to a tiny little window. But notice where Gandalf goes immediately. Now, I have to imagine that Gandalf... So it's possible that Gandalf was just passing by and only heard the last comment. But I don't think it likely. I think that he's at least heard back to what Frodo said. When he says, "You are all worrying yourselves unnecessarily," suggests that he's heard what all of them were saying, right? You are all worrying yourselves unnecessarily. Nothing is decided yet. What does he mean by "you are all worrying yourselves unnecessarily"? It seems that he's addressing both of the concerns, right? Merry and Pippin are concerned that they're going to be left behind. Frodo is concerned that they're going to come, right? And Gandalf says, there's no point in arguing about any of this, right? Nothing is decided yet. It's not at all certain that Merry and Pippin are not going to be allowed to come. Nor is it certain that they're going to be allowed to go. Nothing is decided yet. Well, we will see. This, of course, is a transition in to our next slide, which we will talk about next time. So we're going to stop here because one slide is plenty for a class. And also remind me, I didn't want to talk about too many things in one session. Don't let me forget next time to tell you about we did our reenactment at Mythmoot. We did a reenactment about the seating arrangements. We finally got around to the seating arrangements at the feast in Frodo's honor in Rivendell reenactment, which I thought was really helpful. Actually, it helped me a great deal to picture that more clearly. So I will share with you tentative conclusions from the reenactment. But anyway, so we'll talk about that next time. Don't let me forget next time. Anyway, so yeah, so we'll do that next time. And in the meantime, it is field trip time again. Thanks to everybody for joining us, and feel free to join us for the field trip here. Good evening, Valori. How are you?
Good evening. It was so great to see you last weekend. It was so awesome. Man.
Yeah, it was.
I played Glorfindel at the table, by the way. That was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a graceful elf, I dropped my plate and all the silverware fell off. It was so awesome.
That was good.
So let's see. We're going back to our mile marker at Seld again.
At Hlithseld. Yeah, let's head back up to Hlithseld.
Our level 15 friend, Elfrendir, if you have another alt, that might be preferable. I don't think I can port a level 15 out there.
Yeah, nope. we're
Sorry,
still
we
in a
are
very dangerous place here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the professor and I are still kind of squishy and we need bodyguards.
It's true. It's true. I'm 120? So I'm 10 levels under?
I'm 124. It's still a bit touch and go.
Yeah.
So as while we're waiting for everybody, if you were talking about like what a director would say to the actor
for
Frodo over there, and like my immediate thought is I would tell the actor, pretend you've aged 10 years in 2 months.
Right.
Because
so you're thinking a kind of weariness, right? Is what you're sort of wanting to capture there, you think?
Weariness, but also frustration that comes with it. And it's keeping in mind this version of Frodo, unlike most of the versions we have, he is much older than the other young hobbits on that one. Just enough to make a difference, really. And
right. Well, especially with Pippin. I mean, he's almost twice Pippin's age.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm converting to braid.
Okay, so my first question is, can we get from Framsburg to the other side? I didn't see any bridges.
I believe so.
I mean, I reckon we could jump.
Positive.
Would we have to go down and cross over that dwarf bridge? No?
Yeah, if you want to get to Lyndelby, we have to go down the green way below the word Framsburg. There's 2 ways to go there, and one of them is scarier than the other.
Okay. So we have to cross the river over the old dwarf bridge, or the new-ish, oldish dwarf bridge down here, right? To the upper right of the word Framsburg on the map. And then and then bang a right and head down towards the river down there.
Honestly, the place where we're headed is due west of Thokvist.
That's what I thought. Let's could we probably get to Thokvist from here, can't we?
Yes, could you accept the raid invite? By the way, we are here for your protection.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. I missed it. Yeah.
I'm not some goober saying help me with my quest.
Right. Okay, there we go. All right, Thokvist. Sorry, I missed that.
I gotta organize everything now. Hang on.
Okay, sorry.
Grumble.
Oh, okay.
Make sure they got some
moose attacking people down here.
No, I need something up there. Let's put green stand over there. I think we're ready to go. Everybody left without me. But the other thing I thought about Frodo is the way he was sort of berating the others at taking it too lightly. I was immediately thinking of, like, this was Tolkien through the lens of retrospect, looking at young boys getting excited about signing up for the war, going, "Oh, this will be a jolly jaunt. This will, we're gonna save the little countries and be everyone's big hero, honor and glory. It'll all be over by Christmas." It's like you felt like that was still very much the attitude, and he was sort of watching with horror.
Right,
Are you guys following me? I don't know where I'm going. Where is everybody?
You can put the cheesy poof on me, and I can lead the way.
You didn't. Hang on. Yeah. You didn't stable master down to Thokvist?
Well, I did. It's just I was trying to organize the raid when everyone took off, so I don't know where everyone is.
We're down Thokvist.
I got a trail of ducklings following me, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, well, here, let's see. Okay, yeah, you just keep coming down the road. We're not too far south.
Okay, I am going south. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hard to manage things on horseback. I have a tendency to stop so I don't die.
Okay.
There's no fun in that.
Well, I'll be able to do it in Eregion, as long as I don't fall off any cliffs, but not the best spot for it out here.
Oh, look, it's a res circle, so that's easy enough.
Well, it's good that we know where that is.
Ooh, look, there's a camp down there.
It's full of bad guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
I
never
can
a
see
nice
that.
camp.
It's a goblin camp.
I think we encountered that one last time.
Well, this direct route.
Whoa. Okay.
That was deliberate.
Oh, that was deliberate?
Oh yeah.
What was
Okay.
deliberate?
Me jumping
They're
off
all
the cliff.
they're all lemminging off the cliff there.
Oh. Well,
Oh.
that wasn't plan A. But I think we can get down over here, can't we? This looks
Yeah,
like a
the
good
little green
downhill
patch.
spot.
Yeah, right here. Yep. And you jumped a little high.
Okay, there we go.
There we
All
go.
right, so we can head down. I don't think I need to explore that camp as it's... Hang on, yes I do. No,
Of
it's
course.
just rock. I thought there was
Yeah,
something
there's-
interesting there, but there's
Nope.
not really.
Alas.
Well,
Okay,
that's
just a couple bad guys and bats trying to kill us all, and... Okay. Looking for a way down. Willows, that must be a good sign. Okay, here we are.
Head to the water.
Here we are at the water.
And you want to swim a little bit north.
Okay, I'm still not even the swimming stage.
I'm still amused by the blue effect I get on my weapon when I'm near orcs.
That is one of the cooler things they added to the game.
That
You wanna
was a cool
swim
present.
north.
I like that one. I can't get on my horse. I'm under attack.
Okay, I'm in the river proper now. There's that dwarf bridge, the broken down dwarf bridge. So we head north up here.
Mm-hmm. We're still missing some people.
Yeah. Just a bit of us. Did we go swimming? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, just head to the river and swim. Go
Okay,
straight.
I'm doing
go
that.
straight west.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm having
seeing
bad luck
people
tonight.
coming in.
Bad
Yeah.
juju. Don't like it. This will all end in tears.
Right, so if you get to the river and then just head north up, you'll see the little narrowing with the willow trees just north of it.
Mm-hmm.
Come out on the shore onto the west.
Yeah. All right.
Cheesy Poof's on Carissa right now, so we can
And now
be a lantern to our...
That is... Yeah, that's the tip of the Fromsburg. Yeah, you can see it up above there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go up here on the shore?
Whoa.
That looks really impressive. Boy, that's just like an utterly unassailable fortress.
That's 0 points of articulation.
I can see why Fram was interested. All right. So
Yeah.
from here, we've still got to head south a ways here, don't we? Okay, so we're going to
Follow
go up
the
this little
bouncing
path up
cape.
here.
Yep, follow
Alright,
the
we'll go.
bouncing cape.
We'll go up this little
And once
path.
you get up this, there's no further danger.
Oh, it's nice to know.
Well, there's danger, but there's not really danger. It's only danger danger to other people.
Right. So we can... This way we're only going to be facing a little of the peril, is what you're saying?
Well, you'll see when we get there what I'm referring to.
Moderate
Do
peril.
we get to double back over this way?
We're just going to follow this path.
Just going to follow
Oh,
this
it's
back.
so misty.
Okay. I love the mist. Big fan of the mist.
Yeah, Scenario is the gentleman who is responsible for most of the world building in this area.
Nice. Okay.
Cupboard.
Rimdath.
Rimdath.
Rimdath. Okay. Oh, boy, we're going nowhere near where I thought we were going. I guess this is just a narrow path. Narrow pass here over this part of the
No,
mountains.
it's like trying to find Rivendell again. Good thing you're not a chicken this time.
Yeah, though much harder to lose this path once you find it.
Yeah. I like the guardrails made of rock on either side.
Yeah, exactly.
He's social compliant up here.
Yes.
A little bit easier.
Certainly not built by elves.
There's a little path down here, which is I'm ignoring.
There's nothing down there.
Yeah, well, I suspected that, which is one of the reasons why I was ignoring it.
Careful with the turn up here. It's a hairpin.
Right.
Definitely
Oh,
not
boy.
one to go careening off on a war steed, just saying.
Yeah, no. This is not Ward Steed driving
No.
compliant.
No. Okay, so we're along the river now. We've come back out on the river. That seems fine.
Ooh, it's cloudy and grey. It looks like wheels. Where the
And
fluff am I?
nighttime again. It's always
Oh, I got
nighttime
it.
for a field.
Jeez,
Okay.
looks like a solid wall.
It does. That's part of the point.
Here, I've all fallen behind here because I keep stopping to look around.
Yeah.
We are way above the river now. Oh yeah, this really does look like a dead end. Then we cut inwards here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Things are not always what they seem in this place.
All right.
And if you play with the sound off, I might recommend listening to the music because Bill Champagne wrote a banger for what we're about to see.
Okay. Oh, we're going down.
Oh,
We've
missed.
the main pass here. And a misty valley opens before us.
Mist feels like it's following us.
Let's see. Yeah, no, this looks like a good place for a scenic overlook. Ooh. Oh, I'm seeing something.
Oh my.
What is that? A little village on the hill? Oh my. Looking around to see if I see anything else. Oh man, no way. Those are hobbit holes. Oh man. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I tried to
was
avoid
not
spoilers.
expecting.
I really did. It was so cool to see this.
This is why we don't spoil. It's the discovery wonder.
I had no idea that this was coming because we already found the but you can tell from the bridge right away. Look at the
And the
bridge.
lanterns at head height.
And the lanterns, exactly.
Perfect for Big Eagle.
The 3-arch bridge, just like
Fangland?
looking like the Brandywine Bridge.
Yeah. I swear, eagles always take me by surprise. They're so big, and that you don't see them until you're like right on them.
Apparently, that's how the game renders it.
Fangland. Well done, those guys.
Wow.
If it wasn't intentional, it's a good trick.
Yeah, look at as you say, head high.
Head high lanterns, just great for
Lampposts.
banging your head on after a pub run.
Stone walls. Now let's see if we can see any differences here. So we've got,
They've got stone walls very similar to our human friends.
Yeah. You know,
Compare them
I'm
to
trying
the
to.
places in Enidwaith.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to figure out if
I don't know.
there's
What
any
look like an
like
Enidwaith?
differences in the Hobbit holes here, and it's hard because I think the primary differences are that like these were designed when the graphics were a little bit better. But you can find other differences as well. I mean, like that door is really cool, but I think it's just kind of better detail in a lot of ways.
Definitely
Notice
hard wearing.
These are made out of stone when many of the Hobbit holes, like the fronts, of the Hobbit holes in the Shire, as I recall, more of them look kind of like the Bree houses, like rather than being built stone like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it reminds me a lot of the little stone huts you see in Ireland that they built it out of just simply because when they were digging up things to make walls and farms, there was hundreds and hundreds of rocks under the ground,
right,
so they were readily available.
Exactly. Yeah, we have this. That's why there's little ancient stone walls all over New England here, where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, wow. Got a little party stage. It's got bunting. Something's happening.
Yeah, this is lovely. Little flower garden here next to the door and beer barrels.
Yeah.
Your cat is killing all the chickens.
What? No, stop your cat,
is killing
man.
all the chickens? Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. You can kill chickens here?
Yes.
That's horrific.
Well, those anyway.
Those chickens.
Oops, I can't right click on my...
He's destroying their livelihood. Well, the shrew's fine. Kill the shrew. There we go. Pisky shrew.
Okay. Sorry. I apologize if my... Ooh, hey, there's a milestone here.
Oh, yeah. Let's get that.
Yeah. Let's definitely get that because we're going to want to come back here and continue looking. We're not going to be able to explore the whole thing here this time. So this is better than Hlithseld anyway.
Turn your cat off!
I can't. I'm in a non-right clicking zone again. Let me see if I can. No, won't do it. Okay. That's all right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can pay for those chickens.
Have dinner. It'll be fine. The locals, by the way, are hiding. It's part of the quest line. Is when you do the quest naturally, eventually they will come out and you'll greet them.
Oh, they're shy of strangers, are they?
They are indeed.
Well, I wonder why. Is it like, I was going to say, is it like they're afraid, you're going to come and with like feral animals who will destroy all their livestock?
And rightly so.
And, the occasional orc or goblin from up north,
Hey, gazebo.
Oh, what a lovely vegetable garden.
Oh. Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
I see.
That is so cool.
And onions.
That is so cool. All right. Well, I want to see, because it looks like there's an eagle eyrie or something up here too. So I want to continue at seeing what we can see, what conclusions we can draw about these hobbits, because this is fascinating that there should be a hobbit. I was not expecting this at all.
Yes.
I'm just glad that the ringwraiths didn't find and destroy this place.
Oh yeah.
Because they were hunting
who we
for them.
saw on the bridge.
The eagle, right? Which was you're explaining why they didn't find and destroy it. Yeah.
Well, this village is under their protection.
Yes.
Oh.
All right, that is awesome. So we will return and further explore Hobbit Gondolin next time, I suppose. Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll and then that's it. This is the last area here. So after this, we will head up to the Elder Slade, and because this is a smallish area, and then this way we can finish out. We can get a little more of closure up here in the north, and then we can probably head back to Eregion after that.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Well, I am definitely interested in looking at the Gondolin of the Hobbits next time, and I won't bring my cat to kill all the chickens next time, so that'll be a little bit easier. All right.
I'm so embarrassed. I can't take you anywhere.
I know, right? Okay, cool. Well, I am keen to. I don't want to spoil the wonder with haste. So let us finish looking at Lyndelby next time, and then we'll be ready to head up to the Elder Slate after that. Thanks everybody for joining us in our discovery of the little hidden kingdom of the halflings here. Quite unexpected. And I am fascinated to see what we can learn from observing what the story is of these folks. So thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye now.
Night.